We will start with an invocation. This invocation will be offered by Rajan Zed, who is the president of the Universal Society for Hinduism, who's a community Hindu leader for our community. So please.
Starting with Gayatri Mantra, which is considered the most sacred mantra of Hinduism, I shall be reading from ancient Hindu scriptures, Rig Veda, Upanishad, and Bhagavad Gita, some as old as 1500 before the Common Era. I shall be reading in Sanskrit and then interpret in English. May all rise, please?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Om Bhurvavah Svah Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. We meditate on the transcendental glory of the Deity Supreme, who is inside the heart of the earth, inside the life of the sky, and inside the soul of the heaven. May He stimulate and illuminate our minds. Astoma Sadgamya, Tamsoma Jyotirgamya, Mrityor Mamratam Gamya. Lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, lead us from death to immortality. Tasmada Sakta Statam Karyam Karma Samachara, Asakto Hyacharan Karma, Paramapnauti Purusha, Karma Nevahi Samsiddhi, Mastita Jankadya, Loka Sangreha Mevapi, Sampa Shankar Tumrahasi. Strive constantly to serve the welfare of the world. By devotion to selfless, one attains the supreme goal of life. Do your work with the welfare of others always in mind. Om Saha Navavatu, Saha Navanaktu, Saha Viryan Karva Bahai, Tejasvi Navadita Mastu, Ma Vidvisa Bahai. May we be protected together, may we be nourished together, may we work together with great vigor. May our study be enlightening. May no obstacle arise between us. Samniva Kuti Samna Hirdhyaniva Samnamastu O Mano Yathava Susahasti. United your resolve, united your hearts, may your spirits be at one, that you may long together dwell in unity and concord. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. At this time, we would like to invite Kevin Allred up to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'll stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We appreciate it. All right, item 5.2, City Council comments and recognitions. I would just like to comment to the public that our candidate declaration period has ended and closed, and many of the new council, the new potential candidates for council for District 4 are present tonight. So we would invite our public to get to know those individuals as we move forward over the next few months prior to the primary, and we look forward to hearing what they have to offer from us, to offer to our community, as I'm sure they are looking forward to serving. Any comments or recognitions by the council?
None for me tonight.
Okay. All right, we will move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. Audience members may bring any item to the mayor and council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. So if you have a public comment you'd like to make at this time, please feel free to come to the podium, give your name, and then proceed with your comment. Okay, seeing none, we will close that portion of our meeting. City Council Board and Committee reports.
I have a couple. I have the opportunity to serve with the Youth Council, and we were just about halfway through our interviews for next year's Youth Council. We had 43 43 applications this year, which is almost double what we've had in the past. So we're really grateful for that. We're really grateful for all the youth that have a desire to participate in our community. And it really gives them a great opportunity for leadership skills and training in those kind of areas. So we're excited for that and look forward to working with this next group of youth. Another committee that I serve on is the Mosquito Abatement Committee and Board, I should say. They just completed their audit. Everything looked good. There was no findings as far as no problem areas in their audit, so that was good. They're well on the way to trapping and baiting for mosquitoes right now. So if you notice any areas, any problems in your area, they get a lot of reports about swarms, and usually the swarms are gnats. And so try and make sure you're identifying that they truly are mosquitoes. But if you're having a problem in your area, please notify the Mosquito Abatement District, and they can send somebody out to do traps so they can identify what type of mosquitoes they are and get aggressive on making sure that we take care of those through abatement. That's all.
I have a couple reports. First, as a representative from the Herriman Council, I sit on the South Valley Sewer Board. And our next meeting will be held next Tuesday morning. As part of the Sewer Board, in our last meeting, we did have our audit presentation as well. That was a clean audit report. There was no findings in that. I've been very impressed with how well run the sewer district is, and how they've been able, under a new facility, to really plan for the future and for future growth. As that plant was constructed, we are basically at full capacity with what is there currently, and actually beyond that, we're sending some to South Valley Water Reclamation Center as well. The plans in the future will actually be to double the capacity down there, build basically a complete second half of the plant down there as the growth continues in our area. But they're planning well ahead. One of the big projects they do have working right now is the construction of their thermal drying project, which is a means to help reduce the amount of basically wet waste that needs to be hauled out of there. It takes all of that, which is mostly water. They take a lot of that water out of there and significantly reduces the amount of waste that then needs to be hauled off and properly disposed of. So that thermal drying project is in construction phase now, but again, been very impressed with the leadership down there and how they've been able to look for the future. Just by way of information, that governing board down there that I sit on as an appointed member by the city, excuse me, also has 3 elected board members that sit on there, and those come from cities that are not wholly within the boundary of the South Valley Sewer District, so they still have representation. That notice of election was open last week as well for filing, as there's one of those seats open, so there will be an election down there. There had been an indication that the longest serving board member, Wayne Ballard, from Draper, would not be running again, but I actually think I saw his name on the declaration again, so we will see what happens with that as well. My second report would be from the UTA Advisory Council that, again, I sit on as a representative of our community. I did receive a copy of their CAFRA, their comprehensive audit report. Again, there's been a lot of transition and change in the governance of that body lately, and so they've been working through certainly a lot of change in leadership and a lot more oversight. So I do have a copy of that for anyone that would like to take a look at that, plus they will be posting that online as well. But I think that the 3 trustees that are in place now have a good vision moving forward. They still have a lot of work ahead of them in order to really bring that agency, I think, where the public wants to see it. But looking forward, they will begin to receive funding from the implementation of the Salt Lake County fourth quarter, the quarter of the quarter that was implemented. And UTA will receive directly 40% of that 0.25% that was implemented. So just by way of information looking forward, their use of those funds between fall of 2019 and then August of 2020 or July of 2020 will be what they're calling their mobilization phase as they look at expanding and enhancing service. Right now, they plan to dedicate 19% of that additional funding to bus service improvements, 47%. So the bulk of it is going to service-related facility improvements as they are constructing a new bus maintenance facility to help them stay on top of that aspect of it. 28% is what they're referring to as a state of good repair, or mainly their light rail or their tracks maintenance. And then 6% of that is administrative services support. Beyond that implementation phase, starting in August of 2021, that will actually be their implementation of bus service expansion. So 71% of the funding is anticipated to be to bus service expansion, 5% related to facility improvements, and 24% again going to state of good repair maintenance on it. So again, I think as a whole, the organization is moving in a good direction and putting some good plans in place for how to enhance that public transit service. And as we know, we talked in the work meeting prior, we're going to schedule to have our trustee that's representative of our area, Carlton Christensen, come and give a report to the council of really from the trustees' perspective and those future plans looking forward of transit, especially as it relates to the southwest quadrant of the valley. So that's all I have.
Awesome.
Be somewhat of a good segue to Southwest Mayor's Caucus, our visioning study. We've selected the consultant. We've gone through the RFP process. That consultant's been selected. An announcement is forthcoming. I'm going to try to figure out a good way to do some press with that, I think. So look for that in the next few weeks, I think. Second thing, incidentally, is I've been asked to serve on the Impact Fee Task Force, which will be interesting at our first meeting today, a good 2-hour meeting to discuss what our purpose is. What we're finding, which really came out, I think, good. What we're going to try to identify is what's the best way to pay for public infrastructure. The impact fee system that's kind of in place in Utah since the late 70s, I believe, early 80s, or some changes made to it. It was really interesting. There are three elected officials, myself, Mayor Staggs from Riverton, Councilwoman Amy Winder-Newton from the county, and then various people with different backgrounds in real estate development, et cetera. And today's discussion really settled on the financial end, which both Mayor Staggs and I have significant experience with in our professional lives. So I think it's going to be an interesting discussion as we go through this year. So I'm going to rely on staff a lot for some information coming up to go with that. Oh, and UPD, we continue to negotiate our final separation. We have our police department up and running. We're just trying to make sure that we get out what we put in.
Okay. All right, with that, we will move on to item 8.1, introduction of the Fort Herriman Town Days Grand Marshal. Our Parks Director, Wendy Thomas.
Okay, Mayor and Council, I am happy to come before you this evening to introduce our 2019 Fort Herriman Town Days Parade Grand Marshal, Marion Millett. Some of you may know him. He is a spry 93-year-old who doesn't play 9 holes of golf. He plays 18. And he enjoys fishing and fast cars. He just got back from the Indianapolis 500 where his team Penske won. It's very exciting. Marion served as the Herriman Community Council Chair prior to incorporation and did much of the heavy lifting in the incorporation of Herriman in 1999. So we're excited this is our 20-year anniversary, and so it's completely fitting that Marion is our Grand Marshal. I had the opportunity to meet with him, Brett, and Laura Twitchell from events, and we got to listen to their stories about the incorporation. It was very cool to sit there and listen to that history and how it happened and the community involvement and the collaboration negotiation that happened to make Herriman what it is. So I'm pleased to introduce Marion. Let him say a few words and then maybe we can get a picture.
I'm both flattered and honored to be named the Grand Marshal of the parade, and I'm very happy to do it. I've been associated with this city from the very beginning, and can't believe what this turned into. Some of our early council meetings were held in my living room, and this is a big improvement. But I'm very happy to see it and very proud to be part of it. And there's one incident I think that you may be interested in, and it's one of those things that almost miraculous. When we were trying to become incorporated, it was necessary to receive signatures of at least 600 people. And I think we finally achieved around 660. One of those was a very important one because it was a major landowner in the area, a Bastion property that was very large. And I was asked to get the Bastion signature. I met with Mr. Bastion. His first comment was, "It's not for sale." But I said, "I'm not interested in your land." I explained what we were doing, and he said, "You'll have to talk to my mother." And so he gave me her address, and I went up there. And this was a crucial signature because of the amount of acreage involved. And I went and I met his mother and his sister, made the presentation, and she thought about it for a while and said, "I'll do it on one condition." She said, "My son is very handy with farm equipment, but around the house, he's no good at all." And she said, "If you'll fix my back door, my screen door," which was it was loose, and it had windows in it that needed to be taken out, and every bolt and every screw in that whole door was loose. And I got a screwdriver and pliers, tightened that door, and she signed it. In a very small respect, I guess, this whole thing hinged on a leaky door.
Wow.
But it was a great experience, and you've come a long ways. I have some very fond memories of all of the early people involved, and it's been a grand experience, and I appreciate this honor. Thank you.
Mr. Millet,
Yes.
so I have only one request. I am honored to have you serve as our Grand Marshal. With the passing of Mayor Crane, it becomes more apparent that we as a community need to preserve our stories, and more importantly, through the words of the storytellers that lived them. My only request is, if we have not already, I would love to have us preserve your choice stories that tell the beginnings of Herriman, whether that's by video or audio. If you would give of your time and allow us to capture your stories so that we have them. It's a few brief moments, and those stories are forever captured. And when we don't capture them, we don't know our foundations. And so I love to hear them. I had a nice smile when you shared your story. I'd love for us to capture that.
Awesome.
So that's the homework assignment I would give to you.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
I think you should know that I'm a retired university professor, and I'm used to speaking for 40 minutes.
We've got lots of video. It's good. Speak away.
Take a Red Bull, Destiny.
I'll be glad to do that.
Awesome. Picture? Yeah,
I'd love to take a picture with you.
Or if you want to come up here, they're going to take a picture with you, if that's okay.
Yes. Copy? Yes.
Nicole, I'll tell you this, that Wendy actually tried to arrange us to put it on video, some of that history before we lose it, and I was kind of detained to make those meetings. I'm not one to have those interviews, but we spent a couple hours in Marion's living room, brought back fond memories of, those were the first meetings of coming incorporated in his log home, and went on for quite a while. He has quite a memory of detail what happened in those 3 years to get incorporated.
This is nice and all, but I'd almost rather have some of those meetings in the living room.
That's awesome.
All right. We will move on then to our consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve our consent agenda.
Second.
The motion is second. Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
And I will vote yes, that motion passes. Item 10.1, discussion and consideration of a resolution approving a cooperative agreement to exchange funds with the Utah Department of Transportation. Our city engineer, Blake Thomas.
We have a presentation put together for this one, but just to start off, excited to come to you, Mayor and Council, for this agreement. It's been many years in the making, and as soon as this comes up, we'll be able to go on it. I wanted to give a little background on where we came from to get to this point in the agreement. And so in 2013, we applied for funding with the Wasatch Front Regional Council, and they administer all the funds for federal funding that comes to the city. We applied for the surface transportation funds, which are only eligible for certain roads. You have to be on the phase 1 of the long-range plan and all those things like that. So anyway, we were approved for $1.8 million. And the hard thing in Herriman is when you get approved for that money, it has a 6-year waiting period. And so every time we get approved for this funding, we build the road before the 6 years gets here. So we built Anthem Park Boulevard, and so we requested to move the funds to Herriman Boulevard, and then we built Herriman Boulevard. So now we were looking for ways to get this money to spend it because we keep building the road and keep pushing the funding out another 6 years. And UDOT came to us and said they would swap the funds with us, but there's a reduction on that. So you get an 85%, so 15% reduction on the funding. The reason for that is the funding that we were approved for was federal funding, and it comes with a lot of oversight on it. You have to do environmental documents, you have to use who UDOT says you can hire, and, oh, there we are. I don't have a clicker, though. Do we have? Fast forward. If you can just take me up a couple slides, we'll be right where I'm at, I think. So, yep, right here, we move the funds. So we have the less oversight with the funding when we swap it from federal funds to state funds. What this allows us to do is have a little more flexibility with our money. We get more bang for our buck. And then if you wouldn't mind advancing one more. So what we're ending up with here is paved roads with money. No. It's getting to the point where if we paved them with money, we'd probably be cheaper than actually paving them with asphalt. But the point I wanted to come away with on this before we move forward with this agreement is that just to point out that if we had a big project that was, $10 million, $20 million, thank you, that the federal funds seem to work better for that because your environmental portion is a smaller percentage. But these smaller projects where they're like $2 million, $1.5 million, your environmental oversight takes up half of this budget. And so it's a good deal for us to swap these funds with UDOT, take the reduction in the funding. They get to use the funding. They're suited to do these federal funded projects. We take on the state funds, and then we can fund our projects the way we're used to running projects. 6-year programs are difficult to run in our city, but we'll continue to apply for the funds, and as we get them, we will definitely spend them and build the infrastructure we need to. And then the reduction, I just kind of want to point that out, 1.8 million gets swapped for 1.53 million. This is actually going to come in as a reimbursement for the road we've already built. So it comes in as a revenue to the budget, and it looks like we'll be picking up those funds early in the next fiscal year. So that's the plan for this, and so this agreement will approve this funding swap, and we'll be able to move forward with all those things I just talked about. So I'll answer any questions if you have any, or move aside.
Just for clarification, we cannot use the 1.8 for reimbursement, so that's why we couldn't just wait and use it for reimbursement. It had to be used on new roads, right?
It's because we didn't go through the environmental process and do all the steps to do that. If we had done all that, we could have used the 1.8, but we would have spent well over that.
Yeah, so it looks like a reduction, but in reality, it's really not a reduction. We get to utilize the money at greater capacity than we could have if we just stuck with the other grant.
That's correct.
Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, I'm happy to.
Thanks, Blake.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion, Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution R22-2019, approving an interlocal cooperative agreement with UDOT for the exchange of federal funds for state dollars with respect to Herriman Parkway Extension.
A second?
A motion and a second. Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
And Jared?
Yes.
I will vote yes, that motion passes. All right, we will move on to the big one. Discussion and consideration of an ordinance to adopt a final budget, make appropriations for the support of Herriman City for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020, approving a master fee schedule and determining the rate of tax and levying tax upon all real and personal properties within Herriman City.
I think they just went to find Alan.
He just walked out, didn't he? Should we move on?
Action, if you want to. That explains exactly what he was explaining to you about.
Oh, there he is.
Can I ask a question while we're just right here? Have we received, I mean, obviously up till tonight, but have we received any online
Any additional
feedback or any additional comments on the budget? Any feedback you guys have received? We haven't received anything additional, right? Thank you.
Spreadsheets look like when you put color to it. Okay, we've been through the budget now. We've been working on it about almost 3 months since we presented it to you. Gone through a number of opportunities to speak in a public hearing. Tonight is the night to approve it. I do have, as you see in the motion there, presumptively I've added a little bit. It looks like we're going to finish the year with our general fund over revenue and under expenses by about $2 million. So as part of the amendment or the approval tonight, I'd like to move 1.4 million of that to our capital projects fund and 600,000 to our public works fund. The only other thing here is that back when we bought the Auto Mall property in November, we said at this point we were going to have to come back to you with a loan from some of our other areas to cover that. So I'd also like to, as part of this motion, to approve a $9 million loan from our water right impact fee to a capital project for 1 year at 1.5% interest. So other than what you've seen, those are the things I would like you to consider as part of your motion tonight.
Any questions or concerns from the council?
No questions. I will just like to make a comment again about the job that our finance department and our communications department have done in putting together a budget that is honestly for a very comprehensive budget, a document that's really easy to follow and to understand. And that is obviously a team effort. Alan made a comment about, that's what happens to his spreadsheets when they get color, but sorry, Mayor, I'm going to borrow this from you, but this is our budget document for next year. So you can see that that's no small a task to put together something. It's very easy just to put out a bunch of pages that have just a bunch of numbers on it, and that's, I think, what most people think about when they think about a budget. Just spreadsheets that just have numbers and anticipated revenue, and then how we're going to expend that, so money in, money out. But there obviously is much, much more to a budget than just the numbers that go into it, and it's really about diving into the nuts and bolts of it and how we are, as a council, allocating your tax dollars and our tax dollars as well to provide these essential services to each of our residents. In my opinion, again, as an elected council member, this is probably the single most important thing that we do on the council right here is and that we're tasked with, and that's overseeing your tax dollars. And I hope that this demonstrates that there is a lot of thought and a lot of process that goes into putting together a comprehensive budget and how we spend those tax dollars. For those who are part of the work meeting tonight or previously, as we've been discussing multiple aspects of the budget, there was, again, more discussion about that tonight and some of the changes that we are looking to make this year and some of those services that are provided to the residents. Again, looking out for the best benefit of those tax dollars to provide those services that we need. And sometimes that does require change. And I really appreciate the fact that this council, this body, has been open to those changes and has been willing to take some of those bold steps as we have over the past couple of years to do what I have seen as the right thing for the residents of our city. The first one obviously being last year with the formation of our police department. And other changes that we've made. We are a growing city. We have more needs every year. It comes at increased cost to provide those services. We need more employees to provide those services. So it becomes a fine balancing act at times. And I want to commend our city manager and the rest of the staff, the department heads who are tasked with managing those budgets on a day-to-day basis, for the responsibility that they have taken themselves to be fiscally responsible and to help make our jobs as the elected officials really easier to be able to answer to our residents. And again, I think we've had a commitment to be more transparent, or as transparent as possible in the budgeting process and where those dollars are spent. And again, that is what has evolved again into this document here, is that transparency, desire to help people understand where their tax dollars go. So that's a long-winded way for me to say I'm very appreciative to our staff for the effort that they've put into this and helping to educate us.
I think the thing that stands out to me is the way that it's been brought together so that you can see what the goals of the council are, how the goals of each department are, and how they all line up by how they're spending the money. The goals that are set by the council and passed on down now are taken and put in dollars, and how you're going to accomplish those tasks. And that's been done very well in this book, and appreciate the work that's been done for that. But you can see how the dollars we're spending translate to the goals that you've set. So I think that's the key point.
Thank you, Alan.
Just a couple quick comments. I won't bore you guys with everything I've said over the last several months in regards to this issue, but we had the Motors luncheon today. Mayor Ramsey and I, South Jordan, were talking and a little bit about the candidacy filing, et cetera. And I looked at Brett and I said, I don't know how these guys go through this every couple of years. They get new people up here telling them this is what we want you to do, and then they have to rework this whole thing. So yeah, really commend staff on aligning with the goals that we've set. One of those, if you can just clarify for me, Alan, we got asked this question last time, and if you want to hear the full answer, go back and watch that meeting. But a big issue is as we grow as a city. To me, it's very telling at this point. We're at record revenues, right? Our economy is at near full employment, as close to full employment as you can get. As far as revenues to a city, this is pretty much as high as it is. We're the fastest growing city in Utah, second to St. George maybe. Depends on what stats you look at, I guess. What I think is telling is over this last, 3.5 years or so that I've been involved, we've gone from roughly dependent on that one-time money from building permits from about 44% of the reliance of the budget on that to this year about 30% at a time when we have record revenues. So the goals that this body has set to reduce our dependency on that, coupled with staff looking for ways to do that, is working at a time when it really should be the opposite. Like if it were ever going to be lopsided, it should be now. So the fact we've made that much progress at a time when we have record revenues from those permits is pretty telling and makes me much more confident in our ability to withstand the next downturn, et cetera. So hats off to everybody.
Ditto. That's all I'm gonna say. If there's no further comment, I have to take a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve, or sorry, you're done?
Oh, as I say, it's a long one. Go for it.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-14, adopting a final budget, making appropriations for the support of Herriman City for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020, revising the 2018-2019 fiscal year budget, approving the master fee schedule, and determining to rate of tax and levying taxes upon all real and personal property within Herriman City to be set at the amount determined by the Utah State Tax Commission, and authorize staff to insert the tax rate amount into the ordinance after the tax rate has been approved by the Tax Commission, and authorize $1,400,000 to be transferred to capital projects, $600,000 to Public Works Facility from the general fund, and authorize a $9 million loan from the Water Right Impact Fee Fund to capital project for 1 year at 1.5% annual interest.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, that motion passes. And tomorrow we start with the next year's budget, right?
Yeah. Just give us a day.
Give us a day. Okay. Item 10.3, discussion and consideration of a resolution approving an interlocal cooperative agreement between Herriman City and South Jordan for the use of overflow animal service sheltering and cooperative animal services officer call-out response. Chief Reyes.
So we've submitted to you for your consideration an interlocal agreement between Herriman City and South Jordan City for the purpose of contracting with South Jordan City or having them provide us overflow shelter space for animal services should Herriman decide to self-provide those services for the city. On top of that, in the interlocal is also an agreement between Herriman City and South Jordan to share call-out services. So it's anticipated that if Herriman self-provides, we'll hire 2 animal service officers that will serve Herriman. South Jordan currently has 2 officers as well. And because of schedules and the need to provide 24/7 coverage to both cities, it would be advantageous for us to enter into an agreement with South Jordan where we shared the call-out responsibilities between 4 employees rather than just 2 employees. So that's what the interlocal is about.
Thank you. And just to be clear for the residents, we have not looked at all the facts. We haven't looked at all the numbers or anything. This does not say that, yes, 100% we're doing this. This says this is a piece that has to be put in place if we choose to move forward, correct?
That's correct. And just in for the sure reason that the contract with Salt Lake County is set to expire, we wanted to have this in place as soon as possible so that if we did decide to pursue self-providing, that it's not something that we would have to look forward to implementing after that. So it's just a measure to have in place in case that's what we decide to do.
So just for those who did not watch the work meeting, please feel free to go back and review that, but we did discuss this at length. A change of this nature would actually allow for better quality of service to our community by having officers dedicated to our community at essentially, at least in the first year, the same price as what we would be paying to the county, and then moving forward, a continual and ongoing savings to our residents for those services. Is that correct?
Correct, and I'm happy to discuss that further if you'd like me to. I just thought that I was only presenting the interlocal, so
Yep,
however
no.
you
No,
you
you're
want me
fine.
to
We just
proceed.
wanted to, so I'm sure one of us will get a phone call about this at some point, so.
I'm sure. As far as cost goes, there is no added cost to Herriman for this interlocal. It'd be a shared resource, so South Jordan would supplement us, we'd supplement them for the call-out sharing, and then the overflow animal shelter costs is only if we exceed what is anticipated if we were to self-provide. So I don't believe that there's going to be a financial impact to this interlocal.
Thanks.
I just want to thank you, Chief Reyes, for the work that you've put into this. Know that you've had additional things put on a very full plate already, and especially with a short time frame in which to try and navigate some of these issues and come up with potential solutions. So to you and the other members of the police department that invested time in this, thank you. Please pass that along. I think that being forward-thinking as this has been, to look at how we support a neighboring city, we bolster those relationships and figure out a way to best utilize resources to the benefit of both communities is a great way to approach this. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a group effort. It wasn't just the police department, Public Works. Justin Edwards has been instrumental in helping us prepare for this. Should this be the path we choose?
Thank you.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution R23-2019, approving an interlocal cooperative agreement with the City of South Jordan for overflow animal control shelter services and call-out services.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Clint?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
And Nicole?
Yes.
I vote yes, that motion passes. Thank you. Discussion and consideration of an ordinance approving an assortment of text amendments to the Land Development Code. Our city planner, Michael Malloy.
Thank you. I think we've got a little presentation on this. So shortly after I began working for the city, I learned of a term that is lovingly used in the planning department. It's called the cornucopia. And essentially what that is it's just a holding place as we discover little errors, little conflicts in the code, and we put all these things in a basket. And every now and then we take these items out and we clump them together and bring them to you for consideration as we amend and hopefully improve our land use regulations in the city. We briefed you on this a month or two ago, and we apologize we've had a little delay in bringing it back to your attention, but it is on your agenda tonight for potential action if you desire to approve these amendments. I don't think this is the right. This is the work session item. I apologize. Okay. In your packet, and maybe I forwarded the wrong one to communications, I apologize. There is an amendment dealing with the C2 zone was not properly referenced in our landscaping standards. Oh, here they are. Yeah. Okay. This is simply a code reference where you can see as we've made changes in our code, originally we were referencing to paragraph 8, and it's actually technically 7 in our development standards. This reference, we talked about how currently in the building code, a 7-foot high fence requires a building permit. It used to be 6 feet, but as building codes are updated from time to time, it is now a 7-foot requirement. And it was just a recommendation that we simply rely on building code to regulate this in the future. It still requires a building permit if you're 7 feet or taller. So we're just requesting or proposing we remove this from the zoning ordinance. This is that section on the landscape code. We want to be clear that all of our commercial zones, both C1 and C2, are regulated by this landscaping standards. We've been using these standards primarily as a policy or as a reference when we're doing plan developments and different things, but we wanted to be clear that this is included in the commercial regulations or standards. Our current engineering development standards specify that when we're doing concrete in park strips, which are to be used in a limited fashion, The standards say they should be a colored decorative stamped concrete, but our current zoning ordinance just says decorative stamped concrete. So we're just bringing consistency between our standards and our zoning title. And again, this is used in a very limited fashion on areas that are appropriate as reviewed by the engineering department. Plant material standards, we mentioned that our landscape architect said that as we're specifying materials, that shrubs are not sold or purchased on size, but in gallons. And so we're just changing our standard to be consistent with the industry. This was also a section where our setbacks were different than our landscaping requirements. The landscaping requirements are asking for a 20-foot front yard landscape section. And so we're just bringing consistency between the zoning code and the landscape code. Another change, and again, this is being consistent with the building code, is that when we're measuring a setback, we're going to measure a deck that is 30 inches above grade or higher. If a deck or some other element, an extension of the home, is less than 30 inches, we would not consider that to be encroaching on a setback. So we would measure to the face of the building and not to the deck. But if it's 30 inches or above, then we would measure from the projection, the deck. And those are the changes from our lovely cornucopia, and you will see another set, I'm sure, soon. So,
Any questions from the council? Okay, I'll accept a motion.
Oh, Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2019-15, approving a text change to the Land Development Code for an assortment of text amendments.
A second.
Motion is second. Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion passes.
thank you.
Item 10.5, discussion and consideration of a resolution approving a pass-through fund agreement with UDOT to receive $1 million for the construction of Herriman Boulevard as outlined in Senate Bill 268.
This comes up. It's a cornucopia of funding tonight from UDOT. So this is an agreement that came from the last legislative session. Senate Bill 268 allocated $1 million from UDOT to Herriman. So this is kind of the background where it came from, the legislature. And this money is allocated to be used for the construction of Herriman Boulevard west of 6800 West, between 68 and 73rd. And this funding will be provided up front. The agreement that was in the packet was actually an old agreement. It had expired, if you notice the date on it. So we called them, they extended that out another month. So this funding is set to come in this month. And then we have to write a detailed report at the end of the year of how we spent the money. So that's the agreement, and that's, be happy to answer any questions.
So that will be the current fiscal year that comes in?
That's the anticipation. If it doesn't, we'll have to change the date on the agreement again because it expires June 30th. So.
Okay. Any questions? Free.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution R24-2019, approving an interlocal cooperative agreement with UDOT for pass-through funds.
Second.
Motion is second. Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
I vote yes, that motion passes. That brings us to the conclusion of our items for this week, or for this general session. Just for public's notice, June 20th is the next Planning Commission meeting. That general Planning Commission meeting starts at 7 p.m. June 26th is the next City Council meeting. The work meeting does begin at 5 p.m. And the City Council general meeting begins at 7 p.m. Please be aware that coming up is on June 14th, Jackie Foster is giving a concert at 7 p.m. out at Crane Park, just outside of City Hall. And then June 17th to the 22nd is Fort Herriman Days. So we are looking forward to those. Also note, while we did notice a closed session for today, we were noticed that there are no items for us to discuss in closed session, so we will not be having a closed session today. Other than that, I will accept a motion to adjourn and return to our work meeting.
Nope, we've got two other meetings.
Two other meetings.
Accept a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we are on to Community Development and Renewal Agency of Herriman City. Item 1.1, motion for review and outline of the finalization process to approve the minutes of June 12th.
I'll motion to have the minutes of June 12th, 2019 be prepared and distributed to each member of the redevelopment agency board. The board will have 10 days to review the minutes and submit any changes to the secretary. If after 10 days there are no changes, the minutes will stand approved. If there are changes, the process will be followed until all changes are made and the board is in agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
And I vote yes, that motion passes. Item 2.1, discussion and consideration of a resolution of the Community Development and Renewal Agency of Herriman City to adopt the final budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020.
Since our renewal agency is a component unit of the city, the budget is included in the budget you just approved as the city. Now you need to approve it as the board of the renewal agency. The budget that you're approving in this is page 264 to 266 in the book that you've got. Like you say, it's a component unit of the city, so it's part of our budget, but the agency needs to also approve how it's going to be spent. So that's what you're doing now.
Any questions?
Nope.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number R 2019-08, adopting the Community Development and Renewal Agency of Herriman City final budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020.
I will second.
A motion and a second. Clint?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
I vote yes, that motion passes. I will accept a motion to adjourn the Community Development and Renewal Agency of Herriman City meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I will pass it over to Chairman Henderson for the special Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area meeting.
Welcome, everybody, to the HCC meeting. Item 1.1, motion for review and outline the finalization process to approve the minutes of June 12, 2019.
You want to read it?
I will make a motion to have the minutes of June 12th, 2019 be prepared and distributed to each member of the Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area Board. The board will have 10 days to review the minutes and submit any changes to the secretary. If after 10 days there are no changes, the minutes will stand approved. If there are changes, the process will be followed until all changes are made and the board is in agreement.
Second?
A motion and a second. Roll call vote. Nicole?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. Item 2, discussion and action items. 2.1, discussion and consideration of a resolution adopting a final budget, making appropriations for support of the Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019 and ending June 30th, 2020, and determining the rate of tax and levying taxes upon all real and personal property within Herriman. Alan.
Okay, this similar situation to the CDA. It is also a component unit of the city, so it was approved as part of our city budget. Now you're approving it as the board of HCC. You'll see that budget on page 267 of the book that we just gave you. This is essentially the only purpose of this fund is to tax for public safety. So there's public safety coming in and public safety going out.
They're going out right now.
To the state.
They're out.
And Alan, we are
I got a call.
keeping the same tax rate as last year.
Yes. The rate is actually going down.
Because
The way we
valuation went up.
structure the taxes, if the property value goes up, the tax rate goes down. It should generate the same amount of tax as it did last year. But the way it's structured in Utah, if your property values go up, you don't necessarily pay more in taxes. The rate goes down to react to the increase in property values.
So does that mean we get to say we lowered taxes?
Yeah.
So to be clear for our residents with our police force, this is a separate taxing entity. Comes through property tax. It used to go to Slavisa through a county-run organization into UPD. Now we control it. Tax rate has not increased. The dollar amount has gone up because of our new growth. New homes add on to it, so now we control that money. We can add more officers in our community. Discussion?
I'd happily make a motion.
Go for it.
I don't get to do it very often. Motion to approve Resolution R19-01, adopting the Herriman City Safety Enforcement Area final budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019, and ending June 30th, 2020, and setting the rate of tax at 0.001962.
I will second.
Motion is second. Sherry?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Clint?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
I vote yes, the motion passes. Item 3.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn and reconvene in our work meeting.
Second.
Fantastic. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.